Hey guys, it's Lazbro, and I'm back for another video. As you all remember, last night I started reading my Annabelle story, and a lot of you people liked my story, so I thought I'd continue reading it. So today I'm going to read chapter 2 of the story, which is, of course, as you all know, this is where Annabelle comes to life. So I really liked writing this chapter back when I was writing it, and it's one of my favorite parts of the story, because it really has the same. I wanted to bring out the same feel as the movie. But anyway, enough talking, let's just get right into this. So here we go. Chapter 2, Pinocchio's Daughter. After saying goodnight to Jiminy, Pinocchio went upstairs to get ready for bed. Geppetto had built 2 bedrooms on the second floor for Pinocchio himself before he passed away. Pinocchio inherited everything his father owned, including the house. He had been very lonely living on his own with old Figaro and the little kitten, but now that Jiminy Cricket was back, Pinocchio felt a lot happier. He moved into his father's old room sometime after the funeral. Piggy liked sleeping in the bed with him, like her dad used to sleep with Geppetto. After putting on his sleeping clothes, Pinocchio noticed the room felt a little warm. Phew! It's stuffy in here, Figgy. Maybe I should open the window. He walked over, opened the window, and looked outside. The town was quiet, and the sky was clear. Just then Pinocchio saw something that caught his eye. Oh, look, Figgy! It's the wishing star! Here we go. Remember how the last movie it all started with the wishing upon a star? Well, I kept that in this story too. The little kitten jumped onto the ledge and looked up where Pinocchio was pointing. That's the very star my father wished on. Maybe if I make a wish, the blue fairy will hear it and bring Annabelle to life. The kitten looked at him like she didn't believe such a thing could happen, but Pinocchio had already made up his mind. He kneeled down, put his hands together, and closed his eyes. Blue fairy, if you can hear me, then thank you for granting my wish and making me a real boy. Now I have a wish to make. I wish my little Annabelle was alive so that she can be a real girl. I want to prove to my father, if he's watching me, that I can be a great dad too, just like he was for me. After making his wish, Pinocchio went to bed with Figgy curled up beside him. It wasn't long before both of them drifted off to sleep. Sometime after they had fallen asleep, a bright blue light appeared in the sky and began to slowly descend. It flew in through the open window and took the form of a beautiful lady with blonde hair, wearing a long blue dress with large transparent wings. It was the Blue Fairy, of course. She watched Pinocchio sleeping, and it reminded her of when she visited Geppetto all those years ago. My dear sweet Pinocchio, she whispered softly so not to disturb him. For many years I've watched you grow and mature into the man you are today. I see Geppetto has done a wonderful job raising you, and as a reward for your good deeds, I shall grant your wish. Downstairs in the workshop, Jiminy was still awake, sitting in front of Annabelle, admiring the incredible craftsmanship. Pinocchio's done such an excellent job, he said to himself, smiling. Geppetto may no longer be with us, but his spirit lives on in that boy. Or man, I should say. This puppet is proof of that. I wonder if the Blue Fairy will visit us. No sooner had he said this, the room became illuminated. He turned around and saw the Blue Fairy standing over him. He removed his hat and bowed gracefully, showing his respects to her. Good to see you again, milady. I was just thinking about you. I always loved Jiminy's interactions with the Blue Fairy. It was kind of, like he kind of likes her because, she's very beautiful and you know what I mean. I'm glad to see you've returned, Sir Jiminy, and I'm very pleased with how you've been traveling and teaching others as you did Pinocchio. She leaned down closer and smiled at him. The little cricket started to blush as she stared at him. Some things never change. You're the one who gave me this job, so I embraced it. Being a conscience has made me much wiser than I was when we first met. I've helped a lot of people in my travels, and Pinocchio has turned out to be a handsome young man. I can't thank you enough for all you've done for both of us. You're very welcome, and if you're up for the task, I have a request for you. You want me to be this girl's conscience, right? Jiminy said, looking at the wooden girl. Yes, Pinocchio wished for me to bring her to life, and she'll need a conscience to guide her on the straight and narrow. Can I count on you to be her guide? You can count on me, milady. It'll be just like old times. Jiminy's willing to go through the same things he went with Pinocchio. The fairy examined the puppet girl and was amazed how much she resembled Pinocchio. She could tell he put a lot of love and hard work into constructing her. She then raised her wand and spoke the magic words. Little girl made of pine, the gift of life is thine. She tapped the puppet's head with her wand, and a bright blue light filled the room. Jiminy shielded his eyes from the brightness. When the light faded, the puppet's strings disappeared, and she started to move. Yep, here she comes. She's coming to life. She blinked her eyes a few times, then raised her arms and rubbed them as her vision started to develop. As Jiminy watched Annabelle come to life, it reminded him of when the fairy made Pinocchio alive and as when he was a puppet. When her vision was clear, Annabelle looked curiously around the room and saw the blue fairy looking at her. "Oh, hello," she spoke in the sweetest-sounding voice. "Who are you?" All right, now, for those of you who are curious, I describe Annabelle's voice as something close to Sherry Lynn. If you guys don't know who she is, she's mostly known for the English voice of Little Princess Sasami from the Tenchi Muyo series. She was also many different voices in other cartoons, such as My Little Pony, Little Nemo, and Disney's Bonkers. Some of you probably know who she is, but that's basically how I describe her voice. Anyway. "Hello, little Annabelle," the fairy replied happily with a smile. "I am the blue fairy, and I have given you life." "Life? Why?" "Because your father, Pinocchio, wished for you to be alive so that you can be a real girl." "A real girl? Am I a real girl, Miss Fairy?" "No, Annabelle, not yet. You are still a wooden puppet. But to become a real girl, you must learn right from wrong as your father once did when I brought him to life. You must also prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish as he did. Do you understand?" I don't think she understands. I mean, she just came to life here. Having just come to life, Annabelle was like a newborn child, so everything was new and confusing to her. "So, I'm a wooden puppet and not a real girl. And to become a real girl, I have to learn right from wrong and be brave, truthful, and unselfish?" she asked, starting to understand. "Yes, my dear," the fairy replied. "But how do I do that?" "I'll take it from here," said Jiminy, jumping onto Annabelle's left foot. "Hello, Annabelle. Cricket's the name. Jiminy Cricket. I'm an officially certified conscience." He opens up his coat and shows her the badge. "Conscience? What's a conscience?" she asked, staring curiously at the little cricket. "A conscience is what tells you what's right and wrong. I taught your father how to be a real boy when he was a puppet like you. Now I'm going to instruct you the knowledge of right and wrong so you can be real too." "Oh, okay, Mr. Jiminy." Annabelle smiled with delight. Seeing that Annabelle was in good hands, the fairy decided it was time for her to leave. "I'll leave her in your capable hands, Sir Jiminy. Now remember, Annabelle, to listen to your father and Jiminy. Be kind, truthful, and someday you'll be a real girl. Goodbye and good luck." "Okay, goodbye, Miss Fairy." Annabelle smiled and waved her hand. "Goodbye, milady." Jiminy waved as well. The fairy slowly faded away, and the room became dark again, but was just light enough for the girl and the puppet to see each other. Once the fairy was gone, Jiminy began instructing his new pupil. "All right, kiddo, let's get started. The first thing you need to know is that the world is full of many temptations." Yep, here we go. The temptations speak, just like he gave Pinocchio. "What are temptations, Mr. Jiminy?" Annabelle asked. "Temptations are the wrong things that may seem right, but they're not. They can lead you astray and have devastating consequences. So you need to be careful not to give in to temptations or bad things will happen to you. I know this because your father gave in to temptations and got into all sorts of trouble. Do you understand?" Having just come to life, he could tell she didn't know what he meant. "I'm not sure I do, Mr. Jiminy," she said, scratching her head. "But I'll try my best not to give in to these bad temptation things and do right." "Good girl, Annabelle. I'll be here to help you stay on the right path." Jiminy knew this wasn't going to be easy, but he was confident in Annabelle. "Now, whenever you need help, all you have to do is call for me and I'll be here to help you make the right decisions, okay?" Yeah, I dropped the whole whistle thing because we're not doing any of those song things anymore. "Okay, Mr. Jiminy. Oh, and you don't have to call me Mister. Just feel free to call me Jiminy." "Okay, Jiminy." "Great. Now then, what do you say we wake your dad up and tell him you're alive?" "Dad? What's a dad?" "A dad is your father or parent that takes care of you. Pinocchio built you, so that makes him your dad." Oh, okay. I can't wait to meet him. Annabelle tried to stand up, but found it rather difficult, having never walked or stood up without her strings. She started to wobbling, unable to find her balance, and began stumbling towards the edge of the table. Whoa, 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 I can't help. Stop! Ah! She screamed, and as she fell and landed in a box of empty paint cans, causing a loud noise that echoed through the whole house. Pinocchio was awoken by the sound and came running downstairs, followed by Piggy. Jiminy! Jiminy! Pinocchio cried, running into the workshop. He turned on the light and saw the little cricket standing on the table unharmed. What was that crash? Are you all right? I'm all right, Pinocchio, but you should be more worried about her. Jiminy pointed down. Pinocchio looked and saw Annabelle on the floor. Annabelle, how did you get down? He then noticed that she was moving by herself and her strings were missing. She's alive? He rubbed his eyes, thinking it might be his imagination, but when he looked again, Annabelle had noticed him. Hello, she said, looking up at her father. Hooray! She's alive! My wish came true! Pinocchio cheered with joy, hearing her speak. He kneeled down, picked her up. Hello, my little wooden princess. Who are you, mister? My name is Pinocchio. I'm the one who made you, so that makes me your daddy, he explained to her. You're my daddy? Annabelle wondered if this man was the person Jiminy told her about. Yes, dear, I'm your daddy, and you are my daughter. After a few seconds, Annabelle realized who he was and gave him a big smile. Pinocchio smiled back and hugged his new daughter tightly. Did the fairy do this, Jiminy? He asked. She sure did, Pinocchio. She also asked me to be her official conscience. Jiminy said he's going to teach me right from wrong so I can be a real girl, Daddy, Annabelle said cheerfully. That's wonderful, Princess. Yeah, he calls her Princess a lot. She's his little wooden princess. Jiminy was my conscience when I was a little puppet like you. With his guidance, I'm sure you'll do fine. Annabelle then looked down at the floor and saw little Piggy jumping up and down and meowing loudly. Ooh, what's that thing, Daddy? She asked, pointing at the kitten. That's Piggy, Annabelle. She's a kitty cat. Would you like to play with her? Yes, yes! Annabelle clapped her hands with excitement. Pinocchio sat her down on the floor, and the kitten jumped into her lap. She was curious as to how Annabelle was alive. Hello, Piggy. I'm Annabelle. Pleased to meet you, she said, gently petting the kitten's head. Okay, here's a surprise here, a little feature I added for Annabelle. It's nice to meet you too, Annabelle. I'm so happy that you're alive, the little kitten suddenly spoke to her. Oh, you can talk? Annabelle said in surprise. She can't talk, Annabelle. She's an animal, Pinocchio replied. Animals can't talk like we can. Huh? But I just heard her talk to me, Annabelle insisted. Wait, you mean you understood what I said? Piggy asked, surprised that Annabelle heard her speak. Yeah, Annabelle can understand animals. It's kind of like a gift of gab sort of thing, because the animals, the ones that don't walk and talk like people do and wear clothes. So I wanted to have the animals talk in this story, so it gives them more character. Are you sure you heard her speak, Annabelle? Jiminy asked, staring at Annabelle's face, expecting her nose to grow like Pinocchio's did when he was a puppet. Uh-huh, Annabelle nodded. Well, her nose isn't growing, so she must be telling the truth. I guess the fairy must have made her able to understand animals, Pinocchio. So you and Daddy can't hear her talking, Jiminy? Annabelle asked, staring at the kitten. It seems that way. You sure are lucky. You're a very special girl, Annabelle, Pinocchio said delightfully. I'm glad I can hear you talk, Piggy, Annabelle said happily. Me too, Annabelle. Annabelle held the kitten in her arms and cuddled her. It was evident these two would be close friends. Just then Pinocchio looked at the clock and saw it was 11:30. All right, everyone. It's very late. I think we should all go to bed now. I agree, said Jiminy. It's been a long night for all of us. Jiminy yawned and stretched his arms, feeling exhausted from everything that happened. What's bed, Daddy? Annabelle asked. That means you have to lay down, close your eyes, and rest, Annabelle, Pinocchio explained to his new daughter. But why? Because, dear, when people get tired, they go to sleep at night. They need sleep so they can wake up in the morning fully rested and ready to work and play. Aw, but I'm not. Annabelle then felt drowsy and opened her mouth, letting out a big sleepy yawn, indicating she was tired. See? You're tired. You need your rest for tomorrow. Pinocchio kneeled down and scooped her up again. But I want to play with Piggy, Annabelle complained, not wanting to go to bed. Now, Annabelle, I'm your father, and when I say it's time for bed, you have to sleep. You can play with Piggy tomorrow, Pinocchio corrected her. Better listen to what your father says, Annabelle, Jiminy reminded her. Remember what the fairy said? Okay, I'm sorry, Daddy. I'll go to bed, Annabelle gave in. Jiminy hopped onto Pinocchio's shoulder as he turned off the light and carried Annabelle upstairs. He brought her into his old bedroom that Geppetto built for him when he was a boy. It was a small room with a bookshelf, a dresser, a chest full of toys, and a big bed in the corner. This was my room when I was little, Annabelle, Pinocchio said. Now that you're alive, I'll fix it up so it can be yours. Wow, Daddy, I love it. Annabelle was amazed at all the many things around the room, especially the toys. Pinocchio sat her on the bed, removed her hat, dress, and clogs, and dressed her in a little pink sleeping gown. He then laid her down and tucked her under the covers, making sure she was comfortable. Now then, you close your eyes and go to sleep, young lady. When you wake up tomorrow, we can celebrate you coming alive, okay? Okay, Daddy. Pinocchio then kneeled down and kissed her on the forehead like Geppetto used to do. But as he walked away, she sat up. Wait, Daddy, where are you going? Jiminy and I are going to sleep in my room, Annabelle, Pinocchio replied. But I don't want to sleep in here alone, she cried, afraid of sleeping by herself. Hearing her cries, Piggy jumped onto the bed and curled up next to her. How about I sleep in here with you, Annabelle, and keep you company? Then you won't be lonely. Okay, thanks, Piggy. Annabelle smiled and laid down again. She felt less afraid having the kitten beside her. Seeing that Annabelle was no longer scared, Pinocchio turned off the light. Good night, Annabelle. Sweet dreams. Good night, Daddy. And you too, Jiminy, she replied, closing her eyes and going to sleep. Once he was sure Annabelle and Piggy were asleep, Pinocchio walked out, closing the door behind him. As he returned to his bedroom, he felt delighted, knowing that he was now a proud father. End of Chapter 2. Whoops. Almost turned it off the camera there. Okay, so that was Chapter 2. It was a little bit reminiscent of the original film, but that's the whole point of it. I wanted to keep this story intact, Annabelle comes to life the same way Pinocchio does. Pinocchio wishes on a star like Geppetto does, and the fairy brings her to life. She's a little bit, she's mostly like Pinocchio, but she has a girl's personality to her. So she's a little bit, antsy at first here, complaining, but that's mostly because she's still new and doesn't know a whole lot about the world yet. But she is good. She is a good character, and she's very sweet and innocent, and so yeah, I really like this. Jiminy has really evolved a lot since from what he was in the movie. He's a lot smarter now and wiser, and knows how to better instruct things. So I'm sure he'll do a good job as her conscience, just like he did Pinocchio. And Pinocchio's starting off as a new father here, but he's got to learn it's not easy being a parent. We'll see that in the next chapter. So anyway, I hope you guys liked this second chapter here. I really enjoyed reading it and writing it. And let me know down below in the comments what you thought and if you'd like to hear the rest of the story. So I guess that's it for now. Until next time, I'm Lazbro. I'll catch you guys later.